Good afternoon. Today is the 15th of December and it's been about 18 months since we bought this 2003 Rover 45 2-litre V6 Connoisseur. I do apologise for the fact it's a little bit dark. Don't get an awful lot of time at the moment to film in daylight. I hope you can sort of see everything okay. This car's done now 75,000 miles. We got it at about 65,000 miles and it's just been serviced and MOT'd, and I'm pleased to say that it did actually pass with no advisories. There's been a lot of things we've done to this car. I mean, it is in daily use at the moment. If you see kind of, scratches and chips and scuffs on it, then that's just a consequence of the fact that we have it in daily use and there's really no particular reason for us to paint it at the moment. The value of it isn't particularly high, and we've enjoyed using it as a daily car. Eventually we probably will downgrade it from daily duties, but at the moment we're just enjoying using it as a daily car, along with the other one we have, which you'll probably see in an ownership report next month. The 45 V6 is quite a rare car now. They were rare to start with because they only made about 700 of them between 2000 and 2004. Most of them were pre-facelift. All of them in this country were saloons. There were some hatchbacks made for other markets like the Netherlands, but mainly these days you see 4-cylinder 45s. I have met a number of the owners who have these cars. There are approximately 68 left. I think on the road at the moment. It's very difficult to tell because the information normally comes from how many left at co.uk, and that, as we know, isn't particularly accurate. Let's just open the boot and just see what's inside here. It's probably all sorts of rubbish in here. Little badge on there that was fitted by Mr. J. Built on Woz Wheels channel. Lots and lots of coolant because we have had coolant leaks in this car, though we don't currently need any of that. And that's actually going to lead me into a section where we're going to talk about the company that's helping to keep this car on the road. I'm very honoured to be able to announce that this car is being looked after in one sense by Discount MG Rover Spares of Southampton. They're a local company to where we are at the moment. We're in a place called Chandlersford, which is near Eastleigh, and they supply parts for MG Rover era cars such as this. This car's actually got brake discs and pads at the front, supplied by DMGRS. The air filter inside here, inside the housing, is supplied by them because it's actually quite difficult to find air filters for this car or an MG ZS 180, which is very similar to this. But MG Rover era cars are still popular amongst various enthusiasts like me, and DMGRS supply parts for cars that are owned by enthusiasts mainly. The big thing that they actually do is supply a part for sorting out the problem that KV6 engines have, such as this one, which is why all the coolant is in the boot. The thermostat housing on the KV6 engine of this era is notorious for blowing up and just leaving coolant all over the place, and that's what happened with our car in July 2020. The thermostat housing exploded all over the forecourt the day we were picking up our new Sanyong. There's actually a video of that on the channel if you want to see it happening. And DMGRS has come up to a solution to this issue with two types of reinforced thermostat housing. There's the plastic one, which is similar to what the original fitment would have been at the factory, but upgraded. I can't really show you this because it's inside the V of the engine. You can't really see the thermostat housing, but trust me, it's in there. The one that we have, which is original, blew up and all in pieces and left us with no coolant, which was not great on a day that was 33 degrees. So you can buy a plastic upgraded thermostat, or you can go for the Kaiser type thermostat, which is a metal thermostat housing. It comes in two types, one without all the ancillary bits and one with the ancillary bits. We have the ancillary one fitted to this car. I actually wasn't being helped out by DMGRS at the time when we actually bought most of these things, apart from the air filter. But I'm pleased to say that they will be keeping this car on the road for some time to come, by helping out with the price of the parts that it needs. So go to their website. I'll leave a link to the description below. Max, who I deal with most of the time at DMGRS, he actually is a fan of the channel as well. And when we talk about some of the problem areas of Rover 45s, he's actually, yes, he's experienced them himself. So very grateful to Max and to Scott from Discount MG Rover Spares, helping to keep this car on the road. Right viewers, here we are, some paperwork in there, coolant, and at the back we've got some merchandise in there. We've still got Lloyd Consulting t-shirts available, so if you want to click on the link in the description below, then you can have your very own. I've just changed a rear indicator bulb in here last weekend. I'll just tuck that back in. One thing is about the clips that would have held these trims in place originally is that they just kind of get lost, and so if you are changing things like light bulbs in the back of here, which are just there, then you often lose them, and I've just elected just to leave them like that. It's much easier to do that than fiddle around with them. If we look under here, you can see we've actually got a space over spare wheel. You could get a full-size one as well, but this car has the space saver. Boot's actually really big. It's much bigger than the boot in Sauvignon Tivoli, and the seats do actually fold, although I've never had cause to use that feature. There is the old inlet manifold. That's another common problem with these cars, because this particular one was making that sort of horrible kind of plastic clattering noise when we bought the car, and it's actually been replaced thanks to one of the chaps who's also in the Rover 45 and MGZS owners club on Facebook, and I'll show you the replacement video he's got, which actually came with a higher mileage car than this, but one that was only a year older, and it works perfectly fine. This is a Connoisseur, so it has rear parking sensors, although they don't work particularly well all the time, which is a bit of a pain, but never mind. As you can see, we are fans of a certain Welsh-based YouTube channel. Sorry, it's a bit messy in here. We need to glue that corner up on that corner, because headlinings do sag in these cars. This one really isn't too bad at all, but I will get some Gorilla Glue, and either I'm under the supervision of Mr. Coleman, a rubbish mechanic, or just on my own I will get that fixed. This car is kept on the road by two of my friends, Mr. Coleman, and also a friend who lives locally called Mr. Partridge, whose 2004 MGZ TT 190 Plus actually was on the second episode of No Budget Reviews in December 2019. So we'll just have a look at the mileage. Hopefully this thing won't beep at me. Right, key in. There we go. Oh, great. We're going to have to address that view, so we go to put that out. It's a lot worse if you've got the later Pectron remote on these cars. This is a Lucas remote, because this is a March 2003 car. Later in 2003, the Rover 45s and MGZSs and some other MG Rover cars went to the round Pectron remotes, and those are a nightmare. Oh, better turn that off because you don't want any copyright infringement, which I love Luke Wood. So yeah, 75,000 miles, very basic sort of odometer in this car. That's really all you get, and when you press that, and tells you how far you've gone since you last pulled up, if you've remembered to reset it. The fuel economy on this car, something between 25 and 30 miles per gallon. I've just done a trip of about 400 miles in this, and the fuel economy registering about 30. And you can run this on E10, and you can take it into the London ultra low emission zone. Not the congestion charge zone for free, but you can take it into the ultra low emission zone for free, but not the Birmingham one, which is rubbish, considering this car was made in Longbridge. So we'll just turn that to there. Open the sunroof a bit more light. There we go. Electric sunroof that has had its channels greased by Mr. Partridge. This radio is actually fitted by one of my channel viewers called Russell, who I'm very grateful to, because the previous radio that was in here is the Becker sat-nav unit that was fitted to things like Maseratis at the time as well. It doesn't work very well. In fact, it doesn't work at all because I don't have a code for it. So this modern Sony unit with Bluetooth, USB and aux input is much better. Also, because it's a Connoisseur, air conditioning, heated seats. The air conditioning was regassed again by a local company in Southampton, who were very, very good actually. This has the earlier dash in it. The facelifted cars from about April 2004 have a completely different dash in them. Actually, that dash cracks. So this is better. This is very similar to what we call the Swindon Civic 5-door. The Civic was made in Swindon in the 1990s, unsurprisingly. Just a 5-door version, because the 3- and 4-door versions were completely different cars from this. The baggy door trim is, you know, a problem. We'll have to get some contact adhesive and deal with that. You can just get another door card if you want to, but most of the 45s and ZSs you'll see actually have this issue, so they are quite rare. Also, the clocks break. That one's broken. I just live with it because that clock's not right. That's unfortunately an hour out, because I keep forgetting to change it for GMT, but there we are. Conventional handbrake. I don't normally use the handbrake if I'm on a flat surface. You don't need to in this car. On a slope though, it just helps a little bit if you do. Cup holders are actually in there, although it's just an insert. You can remove that if you want. Electric windows are very strange in this car. They are partially down there and partially up here, which is strange, but if you're the driver, it doesn't really matter because it was there. Electric windows. There's the automatic gearbox snow mode. You don't get audio controls on the steering wheel in this model for some reason. I think that's to do with the Becker sat nav, because normally they'd just be here, but you do get the controls for the cruise control, although the button to actually set it is right there. Well, I should say to turn it on and off. No rear wiper. I'd love a rear wiper in a saloon, but unfortunately not. Because this is a March 2003 car, it's already actually got the white dials. Earlier cars didn't have white dials, they had black dials, and they had a different type of interior. If you're familiar with the Hub and Hut channel, which most of you will be, then you'll know that Ian Seabrook used to have one of these cars, but it was a club with the cloth seats, and it was an earlier car, so it had the Rover 75 style seats. These are the later style seats, which are perfectly comfortable, although I think the ones out of the 75, or like the 75, I think they're identical, those are even more comfortable. Right, let's go and have a look at the engine. This is the V6 engine, developing 150 horsepower in this particular application. The 2.5 litres, which were found in things like the Rover 75 MG ZT and the MG ZS 180, they produce more power than this. It depends what car, but for example, MG ZS 180 predictably produces actually 177 horsepower. Unless you've tuned it or something like that. Coolant's nice and full at the moment. Yes, it wasn't always that case before I had that new thermostat housing, that reinforced Kaiser one from DMGRS. We had issues, viewers. Here is the replacement inlet manifold, just here. As I told you, the thermostat housing is somewhere in the V of the engine, so I can't show it to you. Air filter is just in here. I actually changed that myself, viewers, because it's the easiest thing to do. I've also changed 2 rear brake light bulbs, which isn't very difficult. I didn't change the coil packs though. The coil packs did fail on this car back in June, and they were replaced at a cost of about £30 by Mr. Partridge, which was very kind of him. I also poured the oil in myself when we had the service the other day, which wasn't very difficult. I imagine you thinking I'm really bad at servicing cars, and I am, because I have no training, so I let more responsible people do that for me. Headlamp washers, and you can tell it's a V6 because of this plinth here on the front bumper and this lower grille there, and also at the back there's a V6 badge, which you would have seen earlier. Now the cam belts on these engines need replacing about every, I think, 5 to 6 years, or something like 60,000 miles. And there are 3 of them, and if you were to pay somebody to do that for you, that would cost you at least £500, if not a lot more. So I'm very grateful this car was done, I think in 2018, so I've got a little while yet before I have to think about that. So yes, not the cheapest car to run, although insurance is surprisingly reasonable for my lady wife and I to have this on it's a business use policy, not a classic car policy, a business use policy. Just obviously it's a daily car for us. It's less than £300 a year, which I think is pretty good really for something like this. Right, let's close the bonnet and continue to talk about other issues we've had with this car. One of the biggest issues that any car really of this type, of this era, has is to do with rust, and this is no exception. Now, Rover 45s and MGZSs, and to some extent the Swindon's 5-door Civics and the Rover 400 HHR, which was the predecessor model to this, suffered from rust, and you know, like loads of cars suffer from rust of this era. But the area that is the worst on this car is just under sort of there, the other side of where the sill trim is. Because this is under MOT recently, I actually had the privilege of looking underneath myself as well. This car does have some rot around that kind of area, and it's not helped by having a sunroof. So that is going to be addressed at some point. It's not even an advisory at the moment on the MOT. It's not that bad, but loads of these have had to have panels welded in. The sills also can go, but this one's okay. So the dreaded rot or blowing up thermostat housings and, you know, inlet manifolds and cam belts and all this sort of stuff, it means that these cars are getting rare. The attrition rate is quite high. I think it's on like 10% a year at the moment, or sometimes more, on the 45 V6s. But we will continue to use ours at the moment until we can afford to sort of get something else to get myself daily duties. But it's a lot of fun to drive, and you know, it's not the best car that's ever been made, but you know, the other day when I was driving back from the MOT with Mr. Coleman, I just couldn't think of anything I'd really replace this with, and that probably says quite a lot about it. So that's it really. Thank you once again to Discount MG Rover Spares for helping keep this car on the road. Thank you for watching, it really means a lot. If you watch all the way through, like this video, subscribe and leave a comment below. No nasty comments please, because I'll just remove them. We will do another one of these in 6 months' time. Thank you.